Gracie and I are at the coal mines today, and we're visiting the military barracks on top of the hill. As you come up to the front of the building, and I'm coming from this way here, the settlement's down there, the convict area. This is where the original path road went down to the settlement, not the place that you come up to visit, which is over there in the distance. So this would have been the front door here, and along here is a veranda where my pieces of timber are, and it travels along here, and just here are large pieces of flat sandstone. So I suggest that all this area was once covered in sandstone under the veranda area itself. Now there's a plan of the building, and it's dated around 1836, and illustrations show us that the building was in place by about 1837. It was built of weatherboard with a timber roof. It's been suggested that it was built of brick due to the brick rubble here, but I believe there were fireplaces here, and that rubble comes from those fireplaces. So let's have a look in the building. The building was just over 15 metres long at the back there, and down the sides it was about 6.5 metres. 4 rooms, 3 doorways which are at the front. There are no doorways on the original plan at the rear, nor are there on an illustration showing the building at 1842. Now let's start just here on the first room on the southern end, and just here we have the doorway, and this was originally a storeroom. It's 3 metres wide by 6.4. It had 2 windows, one located there facing south, and another window located there. Now on the original plan they didn't have a fireplace because it was a storeroom, and there's a few buildings here with storerooms and none of them have fireplaces. But on an illustration of this area here in 1842, it shows a fireplace drawn on this area here. Now I can't see anything apart from a little bit of brick rubble, but under that mound of dirt there may well have been the remains of a fireplace. That's the border there with the next room. On this side here, on the southern end though, that's a window just there, but here there is a bit of a mound with some brickwork that seems to be slightly attached, and they may have actually put a fireplace on this end later on. Now let's go back out through the door in the storeroom, and we'll travel under our lovely veranda here, and there's a window just there, and then we come to the doorway here, and this was known as the barracks room. So it's 9 metres by 6.4. So one side there is where the grey stump is, and the other side of the barracks room is where that tree is. Where Gracie is was quite a large fireplace, and it backed out 1.5 metres, almost 2 metres to the outside of the building, and this fireplace allowed me, working with the original plan of the building, to work out the measurements. So let's hop back out the front door under the veranda again. Now we're on the northern end of the building, and there's a doorway here, and this takes us into the sergeant's quarters. So he had 2 rooms, about 3 metres by 3 metres, one room here, and then you come into a doorway to another room here. And on this room here you had a window there and a window at the rear, but again there were no doorways at the rear of the building. On the plan and sketching, it shows a fireplace was located in the front of the sergeant's quarters, and there was a window just beside it. My measurements put the fireplace around here. I'm really not seeing much of a remain here. There's a couple of bricks there, but they don't seem to be mortared together. So maybe here, under this mound, there may be a fireplace, but certainly I'm not seeing any evidence of it at this time. Where I'm standing now is the southern edge of the room where the privates would have slept with their wives and children, those that were married. And where Gracie is, it's the northern edge. So keep in mind that this room was 9 metres by 6.5 metres. The members of the 96th Regiment were first posted down here approximately 1836, and there was 1 sergeant and 12 private. Accommodation in those days, it wouldn't have been too bad. Where Gracie is the sergeant's room. He would have had 2 rooms there, and the 12 privates are in this room here. Keep in mind that half the privates would be out at one time, probably doing 12-hour shifts guarding the prisoners, while the other half would have been back here. Then in about 1837, there was a total of 14 soldiers here. That's sergeants and privates. I don't have the breakdown of these numbers I'm about to give you now. 1841, that number increased to 33 soldiers. Then by 1842, when they had over 500 convicts here, the number increased to 62 soldiers. So even if half were out doing guard duty, there still would have been 30 soldiers up here, with some with wives, some with children as well. Overcrowding in the main barracks room might have been reduced by using the storeroom for accommodation, and those 2 fireplaces that I suspect are there that I showed you before might explain what happened. On the original plans for the military barracks, which I'm showing you now, there is no fireplace located in the storeroom, but then when we come to the 1842 map, as you can see where that red arrow is pointing, there is a fireplace located on the western side of the storeroom. And what I suspect is either they built a fireplace there when they originally built the barracks, or at some period later on they added a fireplace to that part of the storeroom, and they may have had a dividing wall across that section to keep the warmth in. If this was the case, I suspect that the married troops would have resided in that room with their wives and children. Some later drawings show us that there is a fireplace located on the southern end of the storeroom. You can see the 2 arrows here. The one on the right is for the chimney that is attached to the sergeant's quarters, but the left arrow shows a chimney located on the southern end of the storeroom. And here we have another drawing of the military barracks from a southern angle, and you can see there that the chimney is attached to the southern end of the storeroom. You can't see the one on the western side, the one that they originally built that showed in the 1842 plans, nor can you see the large one at the back because the roof is hiding both of those. After the southern chimney was built, then we may have ended up with something like this, where they had the back room with the original chimney built and then the southern chimney attached there to the left. Again, I'm not sure if they used a divider there between the 2 rooms, but I believe that this front section of the room also would have been used by the married troops. In 1847, new plans were drawn up, but they were never implemented, but they would have been, or they showed that building was double the size of what this original one was. On one of those sketchings I showed you in regards to the fireplace, it also shows a large wall circling the barracks. You can see there the indented parapet at the front of the wall with the 4 little indentations where they would have fired the rifles at the rioting convicts, which never happened. The wall itself seems to be, and I'm just guessing here, probably 5 to 10 metres in front of the posts of the veranda of the military barracks, and you can see it travelling up the side there of the sergeant's quarters. Let's see if we can find this great big beautiful wall. Where Gracie's patiently sitting now is the north-eastern corner of where I believe the wall would have been, looking at the sketching we just saw. If we travel along my rope line here, we go about 4 metres in, and there's a large sandstone block there, and then about half a metre past it there's another large sandstone block there. Now we continue along this rope line, and just here we have another couple of large pieces of sandstone. Trouble just in here, about 4 metres in past the rope line, there's another piece there all by itself. Now if I continue along my rope line, which is about 5.5 to 6 metres in front of the veranda, I'm not seeing another single large block of sandstone, unfortunately. Right down here to the southeast corner, and where that rope line goes up here, it marries up with the southeast corner of the building where the wall would have been on top of these blocks of sandstone you can see there. Now if that wasn't exciting enough for you, if we travel here on the eastern side of these first 2 blocks, about 4.3 metres, where Gracie's now patiently sitting, there's another large block of sandstone. Just looking at the rear of this block here, there's a small channel that seems to be shaped. I don't know what that's for, but this is not just a random piece of sandstone. It was used for some particular purpose on the wall. If we travel along here, about 5 metres to where Gracie is again patiently sitting, and we have a small rabbit burrow, and around it there's lots of pieces of sandstone. And it seems that at one particular time there was some work done here on chipping sandstone blocks. If we travel past the rabbit burrow with the fragments of sandstone, we come to where Gracie's sitting now, and there's 3 large blocks of sandstone sitting here. That side there you can see where they actually cut the sandstone. This here is again about 4.3 metres from where my rope line is. So it would make it around 10 metres from the front of the veranda. It almost is on the corner, the south-eastern corner of the building, which would have been here. Those 3 blocks there on the rabbit burrow line, so to speak, are 4.3 metres back from where this rope line is here and where Gracie's sitting now. I don't believe the wall was over 4 metres deep. I reckon it would have been 1 or 2 of these sandstone blocks deep, and that's as far as it would have went. Anyway, even though the evidence is very thin on the ground, I do believe that there was a large wall made here of sandstone at some time. It's not showing on the 1842 map, but it is showing on later drawings, which was the sketching that I showed you originally. Let's travel over now to the southeastern side of the military compound, and here it's very evident where the wall was constructed and continues towards the west. Now we travel along the wall here. You can see the remains of the sandstone reinforcement. And we come to here to an opening which is about 2.5 metres wide. The sandstone blocks go back that way, and the sandstone blocks go that way. Keep in mind that again they would have been coming up from down here from the settlement, the path, not the current path that the tourists come up on the other side of the sandstone building there. So the reinforcement wall travels further around here, and here we have it quite clearly shown. And it comes up to this point here. That is not a step there, that's just where stone has been fallen down from people walking up and down. And as you can see here, it'll be the next to go shortly. And we come up here and we can see some brick reinforcement above the original sandstone reinforcement. And it travels up there to meet the original sandstone wall there. Now here, joy oh joy, we have another fireplace. This one here is easy to see. Got the brickwork on that side, and you've got a little bit of the brickwork remaining there. So what I suggest is in this area here, they may at one time have built a structure out of timber to help cope with the housing crisis that they did have at the barracks at the time. I'm now going to travel up the northern side of the fence line. This will be outside the sergeant's quarters end of the building. I'm not seeing any of the sandstone reinforcement that's on the southern edge, but there may well be something under this. The sand has come down from the top of the hill there, the old garden area, and it's covered everything, so there could be something under my string line down here. The fence travels along here. It goes right up here to where Grace is patiently laying down, and that position there, Gracie is right in the middle of the second tower that was here, that was attached towards the end of the outbuilding, which we're going to discuss in a minute. This area here is where you come up to visit the military barrack, but this was not the original path used. This here would have all been fenced off. I'm now at the rear of the military barracks building, behind the sergeant's quarters. And on the ground here we have a square of sandstone blocks. It's about 6 metres by 6 metres, and some of them are quite large. What I suggest, this is probably some maybe laundry area, something like that. The sandstone blocks were put down to make it a bit easier to walk where all the water was. I'm making a rough guess for that, partly because here there's one of these blocks and it seems to have like a little drain mark in it, which I've seen around the settlement, so it could well explain what this area here was for.
Let's now have a look inside the room on the northern end of the kitchen. This building replaced the tower that used to stand here. The 1842 map shows that tower was still in place then, so sometime after that they replaced that tower with this room. It measures 4.9 by 2.2 metres and has a fireplace here in the corner, meaning that it was resided in. What I suggest this room is for a hospital for the military, and it may have been constructed around 1843, 1844, when the crowding started in the main barracks room. Before that they may have got away with having a partition in the main barracks room for the sick, but as the soldiers' numbers grew up to over 50, plus the wives and the children, decided then, I believe, to build a separate hospital for the troops. 4.9 by 2.2 isn't very big, but I want to keep in mind too that the convicts had something just double the size, if that, of this room when there were 600 prisoners at the coal mines. Where I suggested there was a structure built to surround the fireplace at the southern end of the building could also have been used as a hospital. What could have happened is one of these rooms was used for the soldiers who were sick, and the other room was used for the women and children, and also the wives of the soldiers would have been giving birth at the coal mines. So maybe they decided to have 2 separate rooms for those purposes. I will note though that I have at this time no documentary evidence to support my theory in regards to this. It has been suggested that these ruins here slightly southwest of the kitchen were used as a convict hospital, but that is definitely not the case. It was a proposed guard room and the structure itself was never built. It was part of the new military barracks, and for more information you can see my video called The New Military Barracks.
Now where Gracie's patiently sitting, just to the right of her is the doorway, and this building here was a kitchen. It's 16.5 metres long by 5 metres wide, and sandstone all the way around apart from some brickwork. So we're in the southern room here. You can see a lovely lentil above the doorway there, looking south, and then the brick reinforcement along there with sandstone on the outside, and the walls either been pushed in here or crumbled down, fair bit of sandstone on the outside. And here you can still see some of the original timber that's lasted. The roof would have been even higher than what it is now, and there would have been a wooden shingle roof above this, and there's the remains of a window there.
When they built the barracks, there were two of these structures in front of me. When they built the room that I call the hospital, one was pulled down, and this is the only remaining one. It was a powder tower, or what we might call today as a gunpowder magazine or a gunpowder store. Obviously, it was used to store the gunpowder. Where Gracie's sitting now is about a 2-metre gap between that brickwork there and the tower you see here. The tower itself is 2.6 by 2.5 metres, and that opening on the side there where you can see the bush, they would have had a wooden door there, and the idea being is if the gunpowder did explode, the explosion itself would have pushed out that doorway. But they must have been uncomfortable with the side of the opening on this side, and they've built up brickwork in between the rear of the powder tower and the kitchen on the right. Normally they'd have that the doorway half full of brick and then the doorway on top, but it appears that wasn't the case and they left it all open, so the military decided to fill the gap, as I said, with brickwork there. You can see here on the southern end that the sandstone blocks finish cleanly, so that's where they would have had a wooden frame for the door. When I say doorway in reference to the southern end, I don't believe they accessed it there. It's more a wooden structure that would have resembled a door, but the access would have been on the side that Gracie's sitting now. Now, you may question the fact that they had a room, as I suggested, located right at the base of the powder store with a fireplace in it. I don't think occupational health and safety was really a priority back in the coal mine days. And they proposed to build the new military barracks. The powder store was located right beside the two cells, tended to be used to hold the military soldiers in if they were being punished. We're now travelling along the rear of the kitchen area, starting on the southern end. We have a large sandstone base for the building and a massive block of sandstone here. I believe that red colour is from oxidisation. We come across and we can see where the area has been filled with brickwork. Coming along here further, the sandstone here has degraded quite considerably compared to some of the other blocks. And then coming along here further, you can see where the wall has been reinforced with brickwork. Here it's either fallen down or been pushed down. Quite a lot of sandstone rubble at the back here of different shapes. I suggest that may have been across the window. And then we travel down further to the edge of the kitchen area and where the room starts on the northern end. This drawing was attached to the original plans for the military barracks, and you can see there on the left the doorway to the storeroom. The middle door goes into the barracks room and the right hand door goes to the sergeant's room. The chimney on the right is attached to the sergeant's room, and you can see at the back there the chimney that serviced the barracks room, and the two chimneys that were attached later on to the storeroom aren't showing on the original drawing. This is a Lego mock-up of the building. I did it on a scale of 500 to 1 and just went off what the original plans were, not the renovations that were made later. This is the rear of the building, showing that large chimney that was attached to the fireplace in the barracks room. This is our outbuilding or kitchen area at the rear, and this is how it might have looked originally, with the two powder towers on each side, the one on the right hand side being replaced later on by the room that I'm suggesting is a hospital. This picture here shows the two buildings combined together, and Gracie and I are beside the remaining powder tower on the left hand side there. So there you have it, the military barracks at the coal mines.